Welcome to the figured intro for mixed farming and cropping. This is a webinar designed for farmers looking at zero and figured for the season ahead. What we're seeing at figured is the sector confidence at record levels, but undermining that is an ability to cash in on those opportunities. You're here today to learn more about what you should be expecting from your financial management software to help you seize those opportunities. Figured and Zero are designed to help making finance easier for mixed farming and cropping. Hi everybody, my name's Lates, or Andrew Layton, and I look after our corporate farming, accounting, and banking partnerships across the South Island, Gisborne and the Hawke's Bay.
Hi, and my name's Scott Campbell, or Scotty. I'm a Partner Success Manager here at Figured, looking after accountants, bankers, and a fair few farmers across the country.
Nice one, Scotty. And yeah, Scott and myself, absolute pleasure to have the opportunity to discuss what we're seeing across the sector at Figured and why having the right financial management software is critical for your mixed farming and cropping operation. Now, what we'll do today is we'll then go through and show you a bit about Figured and how it relates to your operation and how it can work for you, and then discuss some frequently asked questions that Scotty and myself get often asked, and then we can have a chat about how you can get started on Figured and Zero ahead of next farming season. Some quick housekeeping. There's always a bit of housekeeping on these things. This is a 30-minute webinar, and feel free to send through any questions at any time in that Q&A little icon down the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll try and answer those questions at the end of the session. We've been pretty good so far, but if we don't get to all of them, what we'll try and do is we'll follow up with an email and also the answers to those questions, and also notes and recordings of today's webinar following, well, actually probably tomorrow. Okay, so keep an eye out for that. So at Figured, well, Scotty and I, we're in a very unique position and a very sort of privileged position, working with so many different people across the sector, is that we get to see different perspectives of what's happening within the sector. I think what we're seeing is obviously commodity prices, particularly, are very strong, but accessing capital, bank capital, and also the rising inflationary costs of operating expenses, for example, make it a little bit more difficult and challenging. And what it's calling for is this need for accurate and real-time data to help make smarter and exciting opportunities, or make better decisions for those opportunities. Now, the impact of that, as you well know, is that delayed ability to be able to seize and uncover opportunities while trying to mitigate some of those risks and challenges that are coming at the sector, particularly in that regulatory space around the environmental stuff. But today we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about giving you some insight in terms of why Zero and Figured is now the leading financial management software solution for mixed farming and cropping in New Zealand.
Yeah, thanks, Lates. And today I'll be taking us through the demo portion. I think we'll start off by talking about Zero. Zero is, in our opinion, best-in-class accounting cloud software, used by a lot of our farmers and accountants across New Zealand. We partner with Zero. They are a prerequisite to using Figured. If you're in here, it's home to your bank feeds, your chart of accounts, your contacts. Essentially, this is where you'll do all your work and your GST and end-of-year work. What that means for Figured is when you're in here, you can quickly use awesome features and tools to code off transactions as it comes into your bank account, simply clicking on OK on your mobile app or on your computer. And once that job's done, all of that good information from Zero flows seamlessly into Figured. And this is where Figured comes in and allows you to come in to build your smart goals in here. And we track production, your financial management, your financial plan, and we have a decent set of reporting that we'll take a look at a bit later on. Right now, I'm on my dashboard in today's demo, and here you can see how your annual plan, that blue line, is going compared to your actuals and your rolling forecast that's moving forward in the top widget. And in the bottom one, you can see that goal that you're working towards. And as things change in your plan, across any of these categories here in the waterfall graph, you'll see where you need to focus on and where you're actually performing better than you planned. So awesome to have something like this showing you quite easily where you need to spend some time. Today, I'm going to take you through best practice and how you can actually use the tool to set up a plan. Starting off in our trackers here on the left-hand side, you can create as many trackers as you need for your farm. But in today's session, the two that we're going to focus on is the advanced cropping tracker. So there's two different cropping trackers here and a basic cropping tracker. And we'll talk about those in a bit more detail in a second. Today, I'll also have a look through a livestock tracker with you guys. But yeah, if you are wondering what trackers you need, always reach out to us in the little green bubble down the bottom right-hand corner. The team's always there, or have a chat with any of our partners out in our network across the country. So by way of trackers, the first one we will have a look at is our advanced cropping tracker. So if you're a mixed farmer or a cropping farmer, this is probably one of the trackers that you need to consider. The question I ask myself when recommending people onto this is, what level of information are they looking for? If you are into the detail, you want to get down to a gross margin for a particular crop for a season, down to the field level, you'll see here that I have 2 fields, then this is the tracker for you. You'll notice that with these 2 fields, I can allocate out harvests, I can assign costs to that. And all of that good information can come together to help me work out what certain key KPIs are, like your break even. Also around production, you can see clearly what you've produced, what you've used, and how much you got left. So this is one of the 2 cropping trackers. The other one that we're going to have a look at now is a bit more high level. I probably call it the basic cropping tracker. This is very similar to our livestock tracker that we'll have a look at next. So over here in the settings area, you can select what type of crops that you want to use. So over here, I got straw and barley. The only way this differs to our livestock tracker is the different movements that we have here, going across actuals and forecast. And in this crop tracker, as well as the livestock tracker, a couple of features here. You can either work from zero first, where in the bank feeds, you'd have your sales and purchases come through. You can import that with a click of the button and quickly reconcile those transactions. So this is a real time saver for those of you who work in zero first or have a partner or business partner that works in zero first. They can work in zero, and then you can import those transactions in to quickly get your stock rec or crop rec here up to date with a few simple clicks. In terms of planning in this tracker, there's a couple of tools that you can use as well. You can export out your actuals from last year and import it in. I've already done that. So my forecast for the year to go is already there. So in the monthly mode, I can quickly click on a movement. So sales for straw, for example, and I can easily adjust how much I'm looking to sell. So over here, I'm decreasing it. I'll tick that box. And it's as easy as that to reforecast something in the year here. So that's the basic cropping tracker. Obviously, for those of you who want to use it for feed or seed, those options are there too, and you can also write off. So those movements are also in the advanced cropping tracker. But the big difference is the advanced cropping tracker will take you down to the field level for that particular season, aiming to give you things like break even, gross profit, whereas this one's planned to help you smash out a quick cash flow, not going down into that gross margin detail. You can only get these basic cropping trackers via your accountant. So ask them or ask us in the green bubble, and we'll be able to provision those for you. So jumping into livestock now. So you can have a look at this livestock tracker here. On the left-hand side, I've got all my different stock classes and all the different movements that you need to build out a stock rec for actuals throughout the year. Again, over here, I've just imported all the ones I needed from zero, so that was nice and easy. In terms of planning, if I jump across, you can set actuals to none just to look at a full year's plan. And the best thing to do here, like I did before with my basic crop tracker, is export out last year's actuals and import it in. So that's how I started this off. In that monthly mode, I simply click the sale for the stock class I want to work on, and then I can easily come in here and start adjusting things. So I'm not wanting that transaction, I can delete it out, add another one in. So in terms of building a plan, it always starts from your trackers. In any of our reports, our trackers are right up the top. And that is probably a good time to segue into the planning grid. So coming to the top, like I said, there's a few tips and tricks that I'll give you here. You can collapse everything down if you just want to see what your closing balance is. You can expand it all out again. You can give yourself a little bit more real estate by pushing that nav bar to the left. And everything that we were just talking about, from the livestock trackers to the cropping trackers, they'll all be sitting up the top here. This other section below is all editable. So all our livestock is grayed out because all of that happens inside your livestock trackers and crop trackers. But everything else you work on in this space. And we've got some pretty nifty tools to help you get through this as fast as possible. So my little tip over here will always be to use the tools area, very similar to our livestock trackers. But with our import option, we have the option to choose last year's actuals. So if you've been on zero for a year already, great. You can leverage all that good data to kick off your plan for the current season. If you're thinking, I'm not on zero, well, we do have the ability, and all our partners that work with us have the ability to help migrate your data over into zero. There's toolboxes and toolkits that the accountants have to make all your actuals from other systems that you're on come into zero so that we can leverage it in this planning process. So I can either select last year's actuals once you're all set up, or I can export out a template, fill that in, and then import it in. But generally, once you've got feeds coming in from zero for a year, you'll copy last year's actuals to kick it off. So the
Scotty, just something to add, mate. Like a lot of these guys will be working with a wider farming team. A lot of them will be working with their accountant and also a rural manager from a lending perspective. Can you just take through the different use cases of how we use planning grid to do different iterations of budgets before finally approving a final forecast for the year, I guess?
Yeah, really good shout. So over here, like I brought in last year's actuals, but we do have the ability to take a snapshot. So normally I'd import my plan, adjust it, and you'd take your first snapshot. So a snapshot is a way of saving the information that you're looking so that you can bring that up in any of the reports and compare that plan to the actuals and the live or current plan that you have in Figured. So you can cut and chop things the way you need to in our reports. So my advice is anytime you make any material changes to your plan, come in here, give it a name. So this might be my third draft. I'm still working on it. And I may say what I've been working on here. And
that's where you'd like, say, for example, I'll touch base with my accountant and they've done the first iteration with me, and then you approve that, and then you might do some alterations to that. So this is where you do that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So you can take a snapshot. I'll do that now. And that'll be saved in our virtual filing cabinet for all our snapshots in the left-hand side here under planning, snapshots. So let's have a look at some of the tools we have to build out the rest of our plan. So if we've built out our livestock and crops, you can come in here and the nav bar on the left, search bar on the left, I should say, type any word or line item that you're looking for. Here you can see that I'm looking at repairs and maintenance for yards and fence. And right now it's about 8,730, but I might choose to adjust this. So I might say, because we've had some wet weather and some of our fences have been ripped out, we probably need to adjust our spend. I'll take it up to 13,000. You can adjust things in a cell. So any of these line items you could go through and update manually. But what I recommend you guys do, which is a lot smarter, is to go and type in an annualized figure into the first cell, come down to the bottom, click spread, select this cell here, which will bring that 13,000 into it. And you don't want to do a monthly flat spread or bi-monthly or quarterly spread. We have a curve option now in Figured, which allows our users to go and select and do a curve based on last year's actuals. So that'll take that 13,000 and proportionately to how the spend on yards and fences for repairs and maintenance went, that is how it will spread that across now. So you'll see that it's already spread it. It's just calculating that up in the total column. And that's probably the best way that most of our users on Figured like coming in here and updating this information. In this space as well, there is a calculator. So if you do decide to enter 3 times 200, it'll work that out for you. So another neat little tool that we have in there just to make planning a little easier, especially when you're thinking of a cost, quantity, or rate in relation to your animal's price, and maybe an area. You might use 3 bits of information to work something out straight into the cell. Is there anything that you'd like to add in this space here, Lates, around planning?
Yeah, just a couple of things, mate. Like, I've had a couple of mates that have used this really well over recent years. A good mate of mine actually lives in Mid-Canterbury and got actually smoked by that flood last year, where he got 70 Ks worth of fencing ripped out. So what he did and how he used this planning tool was obviously he created multiple snapshots to get his wider farming team around the original forecast that they put together at the front end of the farming year. But they only obviously approve what that annual plan was. So you can have multiple snapshots, but only one forecast that you work towards in that financial year. But when that 70K worth of fencing got ripped out, he touched base with his accountant and his rural manager, and they recommended him to do a reforecast based on the investment required to repair this fencing. And so Scotty will just show you now how to do that. So what you can do is go up to Tools. Probably go into the forecast.
1 second. There you go.
Import. Nice one, mate. And go to snapshot. So what you can do is can bring any snapshot back into the planning grid at any time. Okay. So what he was able to do is bring the original forecast back into the planning grid, made the reforecast, and then just set up another snapshot. And then what he did really well, as Scotty will show you shortly, he was able to report on the actuals, the original forecast, and the reforecast within a variance report. So just an example of how this planning grid really streamlines that whole process of doing reforecasting, but also planning from the outset when you look for the new season.
Yeah,
and using actuals from zero, which is probably the key thing too, which speeds up that whole process.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for jumping in there, Lex. That's a really good point, being able to have the flexibility to bring in a prior snapshot or plan if you need to go and adjust it. So perfect use case there. Just before I move on to the reporting segment, one thing that I put a tab out here for was for those of you who haven't seen Figured and Xero working together, anywhere that you see a blue number means we can drill down to that line item from Figured straight into Xero, which is pretty neat. So that means if you're looking at something in Figured and you're wondering whether that isn't quite right and you need to code it somewhere else from Figured from my planning grid, you've just seen me drill down to that inside of Xero. So another little tip there for you. Also, just conscious of time, and I'm going to jump on to reporting. So yeah, Figured has a large group of reports that you can use and utilize. And this relates back to what Lates was saying. We'll have a look at a few of them now, but 3-way budgeting and forecasting is definitely a key difference between Figured and other software. We have P&L, cash flow, and balance sheet. But some of the star reports not only include our cash flow, but our variance report, production report, our tracker reports, and then obviously with your accountants, you guys produce your end of year trading statements in Figured. So let's have a look at a few of those reports now. So here's a cash flow report. And what I like about this one is that you can use additional options to compare your current actuals plus forecast to a particular month, in this case, February. And I am comparing it to one of my prior snapshots here. So my original plan, the one that I approved, and the one that you're most likely to give to your banker when you're going in asking for capital for whatever reasons that you might have, whether it's expanding or investing in your farm. Over here, you can see that the blue line is your actual, the white line is your actuals, and then your forecast, your most recent forecast going forward. And below it, the blue line is that comparison, that original plan that you probably did at the beginning of the season. So quite quickly, you can see actual variances or timing variances when you're looking at this view. For example, this might be something that you planned that hasn't come up yet, or down over here, this is an actual variance, so it happened, but maybe we got a little bit less than what we planned. So that's one report. The next one I want to have a look at is, again, cash flow, but in this one here, under additional options, if you're in any of our reports, have a look around and play around with what we have there. But over here, I've selected show quantities. So that allows us to bring those quantities into our reports so we can talk to not only the dollar values, but we can talk about the dollar values in relation to the quantities that are below them. So sometimes some of these additional features that allow you to customize reports go amiss. So I just wanted to spend some time highlighting some of these. The third,
this report here, this is what my mate used in Ashburton. So what he was able to do is look at the variancy of remaining, but also the variancy percentage with actuals and forecast, and then also bring in that additional snapshot. So this report here, Scotty, this is probably one of our number one reports after cash flow, really, isn't it?
Oh, pretty key report. You know, when you're wanting to actually look at how far you're moving away from your target for a particular line item, this makes it pretty clear. There's definitely a few different options, and I think Late's just highlighted probably one of the most common use cases, comparing it from in the actual month to your current forecast or your previous snapshot. Cool. Looking at options like year-to-date actuals versus year-to-date forecast, and obviously your actuals plus forecast full year would be the three main options. In this example, maybe the use case is looking at how you're going this year versus last. That's another way of just assessing or analyzing how you're performing on top of the plan that you've set this year. You might compare to how you were going last year. But what I really wanted to highlight in this space was our ability to take a report like this and share it. So a lot of our users enjoy coming in here and clicking Save Report. What that does, it allows you to give this saved report a name. So it's a copy of this report at this point in time that you can't change, but you can annotate this. So if I click Run Report, here we go. So right now, this is the variance report, and you can see here that I have put in a note already against the red variance. So anything that's red is a negative variance. Anything that is green is positive. I also did a little thing before I came into here. I collapsed everything up to make it more concise. So if you want more detail, you could explode it out before sharing it using the collapse and expand functions that we have, those little plus and minus arrows. You can give this a name. So maybe this is our variance report to take into our March meetings for 2022. Click Save, and you can click Share if you want to email this ahead to the person so that they have that with all the accompanying notes and you don't miss any important talking points.
And then something to add to that is, you know, like you can either give that access to your role managers to send it directly out there. Sometimes, you know, farmers are okay to bring their role manager into the software and give them limited access and permissions. So you have that choice with that. The other key thing I just want to mention around the reports is we've got report packs. So you can actually consolidate all your reports together in templates, which means that you can set them up on a regular cadence to go out to different members of your farming team. So we just wanted to really streamline that process and making that reporting more efficient for your communication to the wider team. So that's our point of difference versus other software out there, which we're really proud about. Should we jump into scenarios, mate? Just mindful of time, quickly have a chat about that, and we'll talk about how these guys can get started.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, just jumping into our scenarios tool to finish off. The scenarios tool is something where you can build out what if analysis spanning anywhere between 1 to 10 years. So over here, I got two scenarios. One thing that we talk about a lot at Figured is, you know, coming in here at the beginning of the season and actually building out a status quo scenario. And that leverages all the information that we just looked at previously without actually interfering with that other information. So I can use that to build out. So I can use 1 year's actual to build out 5 to 10 years worth of information. So if I jump across here, I can show you that you can create a scenario, you can rename it. You can choose whether you're sharing it or if you're keeping it private, you can span it out 1 to 10 years. But I have prepared one already. Just looking at this, the opening areas where all the assets and liabilities flow into. The proposition is the space where you go to add the things that you're trying to model out, the levers that you're trying to pull. So maybe you're looking at buying a new tractor, buying a new farm. If you're buying a new asset, this will automatically spin up the loan for that asset. Down the bottom here, you have all your income. I've already gone and expanded the 2021 year information because I want to use a complete year's worth of data and spread that across the years and adjust things. And then I've also done the same with farm working expenses. I've come in here and spread everything across. I could adjust by a percentage at the very bottom if I wanted to bump everything up by 5% or try to sort of reflect inflation across all or some of those line items. But yeah, just a all-around awesome tool. This is something that we've developed closely with our bankers and our farmers in mind, that relationship. That's why we got all these key ratios, things like interest cover, debt per kg of milk solids, etc., operating expense ratios. All those are key when working as a team, especially when you're going to your banks and requesting capital for the different investments and plans that you have for your farm. Just to finish up here, again, that concept of three-way budgeting and forecasting also flows through to our high-level scenario planning. I've had a farmer that has come in here to do a 10-year plan, and I think it was quite awesome to see that he found out that, if he stayed on his same course, that, in 10 years' time, they'll be in a pretty bad place. So they were able to come up with a plan to change their system, to bring in winter milking and turn things around. I think he thought it would turn around within 3 to 4 years, and I think he turned things around in years 2, coming close to year 3, using a tool like this. And then he bought the scenario that he wanted to run back into the main app. But we got some key infographics down the bottom, tracking things like production, equity, interest cover. So awesome little tool to use and utilize, especially when you're just quickly wanting to test things out before committing it into the main app. But that's all from me today. We're definitely always around in the green bubble and always happy to jump on a call with anybody if they want to go into anything in a bit more detail.
Just to add to that, so with that scenario tool, guys, like a lot of the bankers are real familiar to it. So we honestly believe that it's a fantastic strategic sort of planning tool that you could actually just print off as a PDF and provide via your accountant or financial advisor to your banker, and they'll see the numbers, they'll be familiar to it, and it should facilitate that process of communication alongside with any other sort of business goals or personal goals you might have for your operation too. So it's definitely a worthwhile tool for sure. Sweet, Scotty. Well, thanks for that, mate. Really appreciate that. I'm sure the team got a lot of value from that. Conscious of time, we're coming up to 7:30. If you've got a couple more minutes to spare, that'd be greatly appreciated, and we can just run you through the last bits of this webinar. We'll probably run out of time for the questions, but we'll certainly, Ruben, I've seen your one. We'll try and answer those tomorrow for you.
Yep. Yeah, just jumping into this slide really quickly, just to give people an overview of how you might work and figure throughout the year. Once you're all set up, using your accountants, or if you DIY it yourself, quite important that we really nail the setup. But once you're done with that, you'd move on to building out your plan. And like I showed you today, really easy to build out your plan, especially when you're leveraging historical actuals. And then in the third step there, it's really about working in Xero, daily or weekly, reconciling everything, working in there with your accountant to get your GST off every 2 months if you're on a 2-monthly basis. And then lastly, with all those actuals being coded on the fly by you, hopefully on your mobile device when you're waiting in the car, all that actual information drops into Figured, and you can review that in the reports that we looked at, like that variance report or the cash flow. And when you're back in front of the computer, you can go and reforecast and repeat that. And you want to be doing that either weekly, monthly, hopefully, and at the very least, I'd say quarterly, just so that you're running a lean or tight ship. And if you have any questions, again, the team at Figured's always in the green bubble, always happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
So a couple of frequently asked questions that we get often asked. Probably the first one is, why is there two software? Well, with Xero and Figured, what we do is we focus on what we're good at. I know I'm very biased in saying this, but we believe that Xero, and this is the reason why we integrate with Xero, Xero is the best cash book in the world. It's very easy to use, super intuitive, it makes bookkeeping for farmers super easy, from GST preparation, coding off transactions, and invoicing. And then what we do is we team up with Xero to provide the farming aspect to it, okay? So production forecasting and planning is our go-tos. And now we're starting to get into providing benchmarking and data and insights, which is going to be next level and offer plenty of value to you guys over the next 12 months. And the neat thing about us is because we get the focus on those areas, we can pump out heaps of product development updates and heaps of features and stuff. So, you know, we brought out 150 last year, which is pretty impressive. The cost is pretty comparable to other solutions, to be fair. You're looking at that sort of $65 mark onwards. But the cool thing about Xero and Figured is we've got a product ladder. So what that means is basically there's different products for different farming sizes and types. I would recommend touching base with either your accountant or a Figured enablement specialist to have a chat about those options and figure out the best solution for you. How do I get set up? So set up is both set up and training ahead of the next farming season. We'd recommend reaching out to your accountant. We've got a very powerful accountant network nationally, and they're pretty up to speed with Figured. But also, if they're unable to support you, we've got Figured enablement specialists on our website, which we'll send the link to tomorrow, giving you some ideas on who you can connect with to help you with that process. And what we recommend is you invest time and a little bit of money in that process to make sure you get it set up completely right for your business, so you can hit the ground running next farming season, and also making sure you're trained, knowing the basics of the system and how to get the best from it. And what support can I provide? We've got our green bubble. Scotty, if you just want to press the clicker, mate. So head to that, send us a message, and our team will respond under 10 minutes with any query that you have. And Justine, who's on the call today, she can probably attest to that, hopefully. And sorry to chuck you under the bus here, Justine. And then also you can search for help articles in the search box there. Just type in what you're looking for, and there'll probably more likely than not be a help article to support you with that. But also, obviously, your accountant and your enablement specialist can support you also. So there's plenty of support options there to take you through that season. Getting started. Hey, right, if you feel like this is the right solution for you, and hopefully it is, we'll be really stoked and proud to have you on the Figured journey. We recommend to get set up and trained before the next season, okay? So use the next sort of 3 months heading up to like a June balance date, for example, to ensure that you're set up for the season ahead. Your accountant or a Figured enablement specialist can help with that process. So as I said, we'll see more details on that shortly. We'll subsidise the subscription cost during the setup and training phase. Okay, so that's 3 months at 50% for Xero and Figured. T's and C's apply, just to offset a bit of that cost during that process of setup. And as mentioned, we'll follow up tomorrow with an email with a recording, information to help you make a decision, and also a bit more about the software that we're offering, in an email tomorrow. But guys, it's been an absolute pleasure taking you through Xero and Figured. We're so passionate about what we do at Figured. We love our software. We've still got so much we want to do for the sector, in particular mixed farming and cropping. You guys are doing a fantastic job, and we're here to support you as much as possible. But from Scotty and I, thanks for your time. Appreciate it. And sing out if you've got any questions. We'd love to help. Cheers, guys.